the entire arena, if you will. Even from the chamber perspective, the way I look at our roles at the chamber is that we get to view an ecosystem from a coach's view.
Yeah.
Where, like, for example, I may speak to you today about technology. It's actually,
as we know, these are when we talk about US India Chamber of Commerce, two of the largest economies in the world, right?
In London, when I grew up in the 70s and 80s, the general population was, British people or Caucasian people. Then there was a sliver of what we call, back then it was West Indians.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the show. Today I'm joined by the guest who truly embodies the expert journalist. He's a strategist, community pillar, and a man who has mastered the art of connecting the dots. And he's connected many dots. And please join me to welcome Mr. Raj Daniels, president of the US India Chamber of Commerce. Raj, welcome to the show. How are you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic, and thank you so much for having me.
All right. So, Raj, in today's podcast, in this WorkTalk series, we'll talk about a little bit about your background, your journey, right? How you started. And we'll talk about US India Chamber of Commerce, of course, and some tips for all of us, right? From the experience that you have. So why don't we start off with the introduction? Tell our audience who Raj is, viewer, story where it started.
So story is long and convoluted. I tell my kids, look, but I took the scenic route to get here.
Okay.
There was a time where, perhaps the eagle was in charge and I would introduce myself as a strategist, a strategy consultant, all those kind of good things. But now I'm the father to 3 teenage daughters.
Okay.
That's my number one medal that I wear.
Okay.
Husband, community connector.
Yes.
So the journey, like I said, has been scenic. I've had a lot of good opportunities to do strategy for all sizes of companies. I consider myself, even till today, a strategist, like you mentioned, a generalist, and someone that can look across the entire arena, if you will. Even from the chamber perspective, the way I look at our roles at the chamber is that we get to view an ecosystem from a coach's view.
Yeah.
Where, like, for example, I may speak to you today about technology. This afternoon, I meet with an insurance company. In the evening, I talk to a healthcare firm. So where these dots all connect and how perhaps the interplay and the opportunities are. So that's pretty much who I do and what I do.
Very nice. And for some of our audience may not know what the goal of a Chamber of Commerce is. Can you shed some light on that? What is Chamber of Commerce and how it impacts our communities or the businesses?
Sure. So the Chambers of Commerce have been around for 100 plus years. And mainly you'll find them in a city version. So you might see a City of Plano Chamber of Commerce, City of Richardson. We, as the US India Chamber of Commerce, DFW, Dallas-Fort Worth, we look at ourselves more as a regional chamber for North Texas, okay? And you see in our name, it has US India. And what that means is several different aspects. Number one is that, we focus on the business environment here in North Texas region. So how to foster a healthy business environment, number one. Number two, the US India part of it, 60% of our membership, the companies that are members of our chamber are led by people of South Asian descent or Indians. And then the 40 could be none. Now, what we do, from my perspective, we have 3 very specific pillars, okay? The first one is business introduction, the referral, right? How do we foster a growing business economy here in the North Texas region? And primarily, it could be, Inderjit, meet this person, he or she might be good for your business, or you may be able to help them. So that's primarily what we do. X meet Y, right?
Yeah. Okay.
The second piece is what we call providing networking opportunities. So we do several events throughout the years. We have our tech event coming up May 21st. So we'll talk about that. We create these platforms, if you will, where we bring together almost close to 3,000 people throughout the year.
Yeah.
To create, these warm opportunities when business people come together, and hopefully with serendipity and spontaneity, they can create opportunities for themselves and others. So we have the business referral piece of it, the networking opportunities, and the last piece is what we talk about, advocacy. What advocacy means is in today's environment, there could be pressing issues in our community. It could be tariffs. It could be H1 situations. It could be, just in general, the business environment. So for example, DFW, one of our members said, we're trying to do something in Austin regarding some legal issues. Would the chamber sign a letter as supporting, from a community perspective? So 3 pillars are business introductions and referrals, networking opportunities, and then advocacy.
Thank you for going through that. And as we know, these are when we talk about U.S. and Chamber of Commerce, two of the largest economies in the world, right? Very large, and with the global perspective, I really like the idea of like a small world, right? We're global citizens now, a lot of people and a lot of trade and a lot of business that is happening. And DFW area, in my opinion, is very strategically placed for us to thrive and take advantage of that. So I know you graduated from UT Dallas,
The Global Leash MBA program, UT Dallas,
very nice.
and my undergrad from UNT, and even the undergrad is what they used to call interdisciplinary studies.
Okay, right.
So essentially, the generalist, I get to pick and choose what I wanted to do to create my own customized degree.
Very nice. So that's with this day and age with AI, and I think those type of skill sets very come in handy. So you've been in the DFW area for some time?
35 years.
Okay.
And to your point, I think it's the most amazing metroplex. And I've had the good fortune of traveling around the United States and across overseas, but I think the opportunity that this region provides us from an economic standpoint to raise a family, even cost of living, certainly it really provides us. And I had a mentor or heard someone many years ago said, Raj, DFW is great because we don't have beaches. We don't have mountains. So all we do is shop, eat, and work.
That's a good one. So tracing back, Raj, to your roots, if you will, what are some of the early life experiences that shaped who you are today?
So first of all, I grew up in London. I spent the first 17, 18 years of my life in London, which really shaped what I'm doing today. And I'll give you a very candid example, practical example why. In London, when I grew up in the 70s and 80s, the general population was, British people or Caucasian people. Then there was a sliver of what we call back then as West Indians, Jamaicans, Barbadians. So, just black people, if you will, is the way we grew up. And then there was an Indian population, which was this big. And so not growing up with people, like I was the only Indian kid in my school.
Oh, really?
So not growing up with a community gave me growing up a very isolated feeling.
Okay.
And so it kind of left a hole. Again, the example is like, I jokingly tell people, at home, we all travel with our hands, and when we go to school, we have to use knife and fork. We have to have this chameleon-esque, if you will.
Right.
At home we're one thing, in public we're another thing, and you can never truly be who you are.
That is true.
And so if you fast forward all these years today, the opportunity presented to me through the chamber to put my arms around and build a community. My vision, my view is that, yes, the chamber is here to grow commerce and to make money and to do business, but from the community aspect, I don't want anyone in our community to feel like they don't have a place where they belong.
Right.
Because I know what that feels like from a visceral standpoint.
Yeah. Oh, that's very, very, very good point, because a lot of time we call it in the U.S. The generation American born confused ACs and ABCDs, right? So how do you kind of plug in with everything now going on around the world? Like it's very important. Like coming from the HR perspective, you talk about DEI all the time, diversity, equity, and inclusion, and how do you feel those things are. So taking you back to your first experience or the job you had, and reality of starting a career or the earning, how did that work out?
So, I'll tell people till this day, my most important job experience was my first job.
Okay.
At the age of 12, 13 years old, I was delivering newspapers in London. And then the gentleman who was a Gujarati guy, and he had a convenience store. He had a convenience store and he had a small grocery store next door to it. And at the age of 14 or 15, he asked me if I'd like to manage his grocery store on the weekends.
Oh, fair.
So at that age, I got my first taste of business and entrepreneurship and learning the importance of margin. Okay. So for example, he came, say, Raj, look, it's this box of chocolates we have here. And if I lose one candy bar, one chocolate bar from this box, my margins, because they're so thin, for the entire box. So you learn about shrinkage, you learn about damage, you learn about theft. You learn how to clean, it was a mop sweep, So all the aspects of running a business. And he said, look, business is 2 shoe boxes, right? money in, money out. Yes. And hopefully at the end of the month, you have more money left over that went out. That was and even till today, right? If you boil business down. And so for me, that was the most hands-on, tangible experience of, okay, this is what life and business is about, and how business of commerce is underlies everything that we do. It was, to me, that was a very formidable part of my life.
That is awesome. Yeah. So I think you mentioned from Gujarati background. Does that come natural? Because we got a dhanda, right?
It's a good question. And growing up, I never thought of that like that way. It's just something we were immersed in. And even so today, like I said, I mentioned my 3 girls. We'll play games like we'll walk into a store and we'll see, okay, this is whatever $10 item is 25% off. What's the mental math on that? Okay, do the mental math. Now, if you take the item 25% off and you take it to, it becomes $7.50, right? But how much if you increase it by to get to $10?
Yeah,
it's not 25%,
right?
It's a trick question, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so for them, like just kind of figuring out those things. We play a game at home called the supply chain game, where let's take this glass of water, for example. We will discuss, the glass and how it was made and who added value along the way. I just trace it all the way back to sand, and why, and why are people adding value? Why do people buy these things? So it's a part of our natural growing up.
That's pretty good. So now we're sitting at UTD Venture Capital Center, and I graduated from alumnus of UTD. So all the students who are graduating or starting their career, what advice would you give them, or maybe take yourself 10 years back, some of the learnings, that kind of help out? What is your message to the students?
So I just wrote about this yesterday on LinkedIn.
Okay.
And I had this conversation with a sophomore from UT 3 weeks ago. So I'll give you the advice that I gave her.
Okay.
And again, same advice I give my girls and other people that I speak to. Okay.
So fair enough.
The post I shared on LinkedIn yesterday was called Show Your Work.
Okay.
I used to mentor MBA students here at UTD.
All right.
And they would come in with their resume and I would cover their name. And I would ask them, if you have a 4.0 and you took this class, how are you any different than the 10 people that came behind you? All right. So what I told this young lady from UT was that she wanted to go to investment banking. And I asked her, I said, okay, which AI platform do you prefer right now? Which paid version do you have? She said, I don't have any paid versions. I said, okay, though. You're at UT, you have the budget to get a paid version. It's $20 a month. It's like buying a burger or whatever you buy, one meal, right?
Right.
So this is what I recommended to her. I said, download. I told her, in your particular case for IB, because Claude just built a Excel extension, download Claude, put it in Excel. And this is what I said to her. I said, you're interested in IB, investment banking. What sector of IB are you interested in? She said, entertainment. I said, great, entertainment. Find 3 to 5 public companies. So, for example, Netflix, Paramount, Disney, whoever you want to. Download their 10K, put it in Excel, use Claude, do an analysis, write a paper, short paper. If I were the CEO of Magic Wand scenario, for the next 5 years, what would be my strategy for Netflix? Okay? What I'm telling her to do, and what I wrote yesterday on LinkedIn, is that in a day-to-day with ATS, application tracking systems, robo resume, robo AI on both sides, how do you stand out? What I suggest and recommend to students is that you begin to think of yourself more like an artist in creativity, where you start creating your own body of work, your own portfolio. So when you go for an interview or when you're speaking to someone, you're not just regurgitating your resume. You showed them, look what I built, look what I've done, here's my thinking. Okay? Your job is to separate yourself from the rest of your peers.
Yeah.
Okay? And there's, a couple of vectors in life, right? You have time, you have money. You won't have more time than anyone else. You won't have more money than everyone else, right? So how do you separate yourself? What vector do you separate yourself? So for example, you're doing this podcast, right? Right. You're creating a body of work that you're putting in public. You're putting your thoughts in public. We need more people. I spoke to a gentleman yesterday, 19 years at Capital One, got laid off, sent me his resume. Great resume, but no one knows he exists.
Right.
Okay? I'm meeting a gentleman tomorrow afternoon husband and wife both got laid off from the travel industry, and the IT people. Phenomenal, brilliant people, but no one knows they exist.
Right.
And they can't point, all they could point to is their resume and their LinkedIn, which I said yesterday, a resume is a passive approach and LinkedIn is a passive approach.
Right.
So how do you actively take agency over yourself? And I'm not telling anyone to do anything that's outside of their wheelhouse or that they can't do.
Right.
I'm not saying spend hundreds of dollars. I'm saying, I'm just saying carve out some time and begin to build your portfolio. As an employer, I'm looking for an employee who has the initiative.
That's right.
If people do this, he or she has shown me that they have initiative. I don't have to tell you every day, Inderjit, do X, do Y, do Z. Yeah. So that's what I would say. It's tactical, it's practical, and it's something that everyone could do.
Very good. Yeah. So with the advancements in the AI that we see, there's definitely a shift in the job market. The way I see it, AI helped us to be a multiplier. For example, it multiplies the abilities that you had, and especially when you go into the side of creativity and differentiating yourself is very critical. I'll give you my example from the podcast. Before meeting Raj, or other podcasts that I host, I just asked AI, tell me everything about this person. So it did tell me that Raj is from London, the background, he moved here so time ago. So I have an idea of who Raj is, what he has done, and that work. So that is great. Shift a little bit. The commute confessions. I know we talked about music a little bit in our previous conversation. So tell us about Raj, when you were stuck in traffic or you're driving maybe to this podcast. What type of music you listen to?
So it depends on my mood. I'm an old Bollywood guy.
Okay.
You and I talked about, Punjabi music and Indian music. Depends on my time of day. My commutes vary. So on the way to the podcast here, it's quiet time. I like to just kind of think and start to understand. I do listen to a lot of audiobooks.
All right.
I probably go through 2 or 3 books a month, whether it's audio, physical, Kindle. Amazon is my first or second largest expense every month for books.
Oh, wow. Okay.
But then if I really want to get going in the morning on the treadmill or something, it's straight up old school Bhangra music.
Oh, all right. Yeah, because I was going through college, and I remember UK. Remember that was a big thing. Bali Sadhu is still on my playlist. Yes, yeah. What was the radio? Asian Airport, BBC Asian Airport. Yeah, that's what I used to listen to. So we have something in common. Still old school. It's there. Very, very cool. And now let's talk about the advantage and some maybe the early weakness you had in the career and how you overcame and eventually became your success.
I still, it's that gnawing fear.
Yeah.
You have these questions in your head, and some are called things like imposter syndrome or, am I doing the right thing? And I would say that, so here's one thing that I tell my kids, and my wife and I sometimes have a little contention about it. Look, I don't look back and regret.
Okay.
Because the way I look at it, if I hadn't gone through those, I wouldn't be here today speaking.
Exactly.
Right. So that's the one thing that it takes that monkey off my back, if you will. Alleviates that pressure, right? But now, more often than not, and this is another conversation I had with perhaps entrepreneurs or people in business, is that in order for me to alleviate most of my fears and hesitations, I look at what my mission is.
Right.
So I'll give an example. Right now, with the chamber, okay, I feel that my mission is to bring this community together, or put my arms around the community, help the community. So when we have an event coming up, if I'm hesitant to reach out to someone to ask them for something, I remind myself of my mission, because the mission is greater than the fear.
So right.
It alleviates that fear.
Sounds deep.
And so I tell people, whatever your mission is, whatever your mission is for the podcast or whatever you're doing in life, your personal startups,
Great.
Your startup, you have a mission of things that you want to do, right?
Mm-hmm.
And as long as you keep that North Star, again, like I tell my kids, right, you need to be directionally correct, right? You will have ups and downs. But you keep that North Star ahead of you, that this is why I'm doing this. And it could be your daughter, it could be your family, it could be for whatever reason, right? But you have the podcast I led for many years was called Bigger Than Us.
Bigger than us.
Okay. Because we all have something inside of us that's bigger than us, that's pulling us.
Yes.
And so that thing that's pulling you, that gravitational pull, is going to outweigh fear all the time.
Yeah.
It'll at least quiet it down. It'll make you make that decision, right? That, I'm going to do X tomorrow because of this bigger vision, regardless if I'm afraid. Like Maya Angelou said, right? Courage is the greatest value of all, right? So courage is not absence of fear, right? Courage is behaving even in the face of fear.
Yep. Harry the Great. I'm going through. I remember that brought a memory back from India when I was early in my career. I was used to take a bus from my village to a school nearby. We used to have a subject called moral science, and in that, after each story, we used to have something, the moral of the story, and it was failures are the pillars of success. I think it resonates with what he has said. So thank you for sharing that with us. So we talk about U.S. India Chamber of Commerce, large economies, very different cultures. What do you have to say about the friction in the business? Behind the scene comparison, how these two cultures are similar, and some of the pros and cons, if you will.
So it's a very big question, what you're asking. And you asked something earlier about what I've learned in my journey. I wrote a blog post many years ago, and the blog post is one size fits one, not one size fits all.
And I'd just like to plug there that based on my research, correct me if I'm wrong, Raj has published over 1,000 blogs. Correct?
Yes.
All right, so yeah, that'll be good.
So why I say that is because, we all make this mistake, right? We tend to look at a blog, right? And we think we're homogenous. We think, I'm going to say US, we're going to say India, you got 350 million people, 1.4 billion people, right?
Yeah.
But they're not a homogenous block, right? And that's the thing that, again, through my experience in life, each individual conversation with a person, or, in some cases, the representative of a company, is a very unique scenario. So a very, very unique. There's no one size fits. And so I'll give you a real example. I used to be in lending 20 years ago, and we would pull, 2 credit reports of 2 individuals. Okay, let's say we pull our credit reports. Let's say mine is 750, yours is 770. Okay, you work in the same place, we have the same family kind of setup. Okay, but because we have a 20-point difference in credit score, you'll get a better interest rate than I will. Okay, doesn't seem like a lot.
Yeah.
So each individual scenario, when someone comes to the chamber and says, hey, look, I have this kind of business, or I'm trying to do this kind of project, or whatever that might be, we treat that as a very bespoke project, opportunity. So there are, some opportunities where, okay, you're going to need legal, you're going to need accounting, you're going to need HR, you're going to need some of these services, right? But it's going to be very, very unique to you. And that's what I'm very apprehensive of painting any large economy, especially with a broad brush. We were actually having a conversation yesterday that, the U.S., to some extent, if you're familiar with it, is 50 different countries. It's not 50 states.
Right.
There's a very different culture in Louisiana or New Mexico or Colorado, Arkansas, the touching states, than there is in Texas, right?
Exactly.
So even if you look from that perspective, if you look at India, right? Like, if you look at Punjab, it's known to be very different than Gujarat, right? Right. And if you go south, they're very different. So I try not to make what I would consider to be a mistake of trying to portray any of these large economies as one unified block.
Got it. And what's the secret sauce that binds us together?
Humanity and no hesitation. And in a sense that, there's this idea of, Maslow's hierarchy of certain needs that we all want, right?
Yeah.
So Inderjit has certain goals for himself, and his goals are around his family, his health, his finances, his spirituality, right? Those are the 4 big areas, right?
Right.
Raj has the same goals, right? Now, we're just taking different paths to get there. And so in my experience of having hundreds of these one-on-one conversations over 15 years, people reach out to my website, I put a form there. I tell people, look, let's sit down as human beings. No transaction, no agenda. Let's have a conversation. And very quickly I realized, regardless of what people outside are saying, that he's different, you're Gujarati, I'm Punjabi, he's black, he's white, he's male, he's female. People try to shine a light on our differences.
Yeah.
But very, very quickly we realized as we're doing this, you talked about your daughter and your phone earlier, right?
Yeah.
Phone, right? I have a 13-year-old. I know if I were to take her phone today to do an experiment or do what I was going to do, she'd be upset too, right?
Yeah.
So we're very, very similar. There's a few differences, but you know what? The roads we are traveling are maybe slightly different, but the goals are very similar.
Very true.
So that's what I focus on. So humanity, insaniyat, is our common denominator. Except,
Yeah.
it's not more complicated than that.
Yeah, power of one, right? Personal connection is this day and age. We'll talk about AI in a bit. We cannot have a podcast without AI. Well, we're using it, and bucket AI built in, and so wanted to talk about the human connection, right? Like before we talk about the AI, and the human connections matter. And in my opinion, we talk about differences. My limited experience of I believe until you get to know the person, one on one, you may have bias.
We all have inherent biases,
Right?
because of how we've grown up and how we've spent our lives and our personal experiences.
Yeah.
You know, that's the adage of if you get, bitten by a dog when you're young, you're afraid of dogs your entire life, right? So whatever that bias, we all have inherent biases. But I think having these conversations, opening yourself up to, you mentioned grit earlier, right? Angela Duckworth wrote a book called Growth Mindset.
Growth mindset.
Right? So she's part of the old grit and growth mindset. But allowing yourself to open yourself to new ideas. And I think for me, curiosity is a core value. So if you have an idea or a thought about something, my first or second position is tell me more. What makes you think that, or why? Rather than say, oh no, that's wrong. And again, the example I use with my children is that, look, when mom grew up in her household, they put the salt on the right and the pepper on the left. And when I grew up, pepper was on the left and right, it's opposite. Neither one are right or wrong.
It's right.
Right now, if we take that, if we amplify that in life, how you grew up in Punjab, how you grew up in London, our different experiences, neither one was right or wrong. So if we can allow ourselves that openness for that, it changes our entire relationship. Right? How you go about practicing, whether it's your religion or your work, parenting, and how I go about doing it. We're products of our environment. We're both here today. Which one was right? Which one is wrong? It's the old Chinese proverb, right? We'll see. Right? How things turn out.
So thinking about the human connection in this day and age, what are some of the tips you would like to share with us that we can do? We all, with your dependence on AI is increasing day by day. What are some of the tips you like to share?
I tell people all the time, talk to strangers.
Okay.
Get out of your echo chamber once or twice a week. If you have the opportunity, even in small occasions, like we see people standing at a bus stop, maybe somewhere around here, you see you happen to be in a lift together, don't stare at your phone. Just, the adage is go positive, go first. See someone, hey, how are you doing? I just spoke to Kathy walking the door. Lovely lady, right? Had 3-minute interaction with her. We talk about parking and UTD and different things, right?
Yeah.
But everyone, we are humans. We are built to be social animals.
Right.
And we've confined ourselves to these 6x3 screens now. We're killing our peripheral vision. We're allowing ourselves only to have blinders on like this. Whereas we have access to everything. And it's through other people.
Yeah.
So I suggest to everyone, talk to a stranger, talk to your neighbors, talk to people on the bus, talk to someone you haven't spoken to. Give them half an hour, give them an opportunity to talk. You'll be very, very surprised.
Very good tip, because AI cannot talk to strangers. So a good segue into talking to strangers. I know we have US India Chamber of Commerce at the tech conference coming up. So tell us more about that.
Sure. So we've had our tech conference for about 5 years now.
Okay.
We usually get about 400 people in the room. This year we'll have a panel of CTOs, CIOs, and an AI panel also. And a keynote speaker of a gentleman named Scott Harper, who built and sold his business to IBM, I think 3 or 4 years ago.
Okay.
Again, the idea is to create a platform, and not only people in technology, but people who are, so here's the thing, right? Technology has also become a denominator, right? We're all engaged in technology, whether we like it or not, right? There's the adage that says, you may not be interested in politics, but politics is interested in you. Technology is the same thing today.
Yeah.
You may not be interested in technology,
And it's like for a bit.
it's permeated every area of cloud, right? It could be a license plate camera looking at you. It could be a Ring doorbell. It could be glasses. It could be email, whatever, right? So what we, from a community perspective, we do 4 conferences a year, like I mentioned. This is our premium tech conference. We want to bring people together, share ideas, educate them, try to give them a better understanding of, what some of these leaders in companies are seeing from a very broad perspective. So people can walk away and obviously create that opportunity to bring together like-minded individuals, right? To, create some serendipity, and people can walk away with more connection through networking. And I know from a team perspective, very actively, when people come to the conference, they say, I want to meet Inderjit or meet someone else, X, Y, or Z. We will try to make that connection for them, as soon as possible, because again, we want to create more of those opportunities in the community.
Very nice. So power of human connection. Definitely check it out. Plug there. It's what's the date?
Tech Connects, May 21st in Plano, Texas.
And you can go to the website to learn more. USICOC.org. All right, there you go. So now let's switch gears to AI a little bit, right? And AI reality check. When you look at these two big economies, US and India, big in tech, and how do you see these both economies getting ready? Are they ready? Are they getting ROI based on that? And how Chamber is playing a role, and they are planned to play a role in that.
So again, it's a very nuanced conversation. I was giving presentations on versions of AI back in 2017, 2018. It was, back then it was ML, OCR, RPA was very big in 17, 18, robotic process automation. And I remember I gave one presentation to a large group over here in Dallas. And my first slide was the characters in Star Wars, so R2-D2, C-3PO. And so when you think of robotics, this is what people think about, not truth. Second slide was a server rack. Just a plain server rack. I said, this is what the future of AI is going to be. We're sitting in a data center. Now you fast forward 6 years, 7 years, and that's where we are, right? Now, to your question specifically, I don't think anyone knows what's going on. Even the people that are making it don't know what's going on.
Yeah. It was changing so fast, right?
I mean, forget day-to-day, it's changing hour to hour. There's no way you can stay ahead of it, stay up with it, right? What I do recommend is what I spoke to you earlier about, Michael, that student pay $20 and get a version of it and just play with it, right?
Yeah.
Play with it. You mentioned something earlier. You mentioned about preparing for this podcast. I say, play with it. It can augment what you do. It can augment a lot of what you do in some cases. It can't right now replace what you do. Right now, there is some conversations about being able to replace employees to a certain extent. But if you really listen to those conversations, what they're saying is that we can shrink our workforce, but we still need humans, right?
Right.
And especially when it comes to some of these platforms, I've been playing with them since 2023 in March when it first came out. You notice even till today, it requires a degree of taste or expertise. And what I mean by that is that if you give it a task, if you don't know what you're expecting back, you don't know what errors to look for, right? And you see in many cases, it'll forget, it'll become recursive or repetitive on itself, even the good platforms, even till today. But I'm telling everyone that spend a few minutes a day, play with the different platforms. I personally on my phone have, Open, Claude, Gemini, Perplexity, all four are there, different questions, different items to play with them. In fact, yesterday I downloaded Cerebrum. Are you familiar with Cerebrum?
Cerebrum, yeah. It was launched, I think, at the India Tech Conference, right?
I downloaded it yesterday to play with it.
I bet.
To see, what does it do differently? It's got voices on there too, so, different results. There's a lot of conversation right now out there. I think, see the Mogadat or Demis, one of these two, maybe Demis, spoke in India regarding, specifically right now, whether we admit it or not, we are working with a very westernized version of AI, right? The Claudes, the Opens, they're all a westernized version. Other countries, other areas in the world are developing their own AI, the DeepSeeks of the world, now Cerebrum, et cetera, right? I don't know if there's a predominant one from any of the countries in Africa, but what are those different AIs look like? We shouldn't assume that because we use Claude and asked a question, that if we ask these other platforms the same question, how, what the bias is to your point.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I'm telling everyone, look, carve out time in your week, play with the platform, become familiar with the platforms, because this, I think who wrote that book last year, The Coming Wave, but it's out of the gate. You can't put this genie back in the bottles.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
You're wearing it right now, right?
Yeah. So I actually had a chance to work on an AI product 10 years ago, but the way the OpenAI ChatGPT just took off is tremendous. And like you said, it's genie out of the bottle. And talking about automation, because AI is form automation. In my opinion, if I go back to my early childhood of Punjab, growing up in a village, going from Balgadi to a tractor, it's still automation, right? And so it multiplies the effort that you can do, and maybe now you can, get a better yield for the crop. And simple as, a shovel digging out, that's an invention. And I think people should not be worried about it, except that there's always room to learn. And going to that point that comes to my mind is using localized LLMs, because think about the amount of data from Indian subcontinent we have on the internet versus in the US, because a lot of data, what's on Reddit, what's on social media platforms that these AI platforms are able to take, but there wasn't a whole lot from that part of the world. So we may get some bias. Even within the tools, I was using a Gemini the other day. I gave it a prompt and asked for the feedback. It gave me a different answer, which was really different when I was using a fast version or the pro version of it. So knowing that, and knowing that it can make mistakes and how to overcome that, I think it'll be very critical for all of us. So Raj, what about 3 a.m. fear? Right, we all have fears, and
Yeah, mine's 3:45 a.m. But 3:45. Oh yeah, but you're spot on. I mean, you know what? But I've done some research on that too.
Okay.
And again, I do a lot of internal work to alleviate some of these, fears or challenges. So what I've learned, and I did this research recently, is that you get the deepest sleep when you first go to sleep. Your REM cycles start off very, very deep, and then as you go through the night, they get shorter and shorter.
Okay.
And so you have this predisposition, let's call it between 3 and 5 a.m., to have a much lighter sleep. So although your brain may have been processing some of these things when you were sleeping,
Right.
because you're having much lighter sleep cycle, they actually come to the top easier. So when I have these 3:45 or 4 o'clock, concerns about kids going to college, or, some of the things at work or relationships, or, just life in general, I have mantras that I use.
Okay.
And I try to, again, settle myself. I have a strong meditation practice I've done for 20 plus years, but I've got a body relaxation practice that I do. And the 3:45 p.m. with a.m. practice is literally just grounding myself, reminding myself that right now the locus of my control is very narrow. All I need to focus on is laying on the bed and relaxing, and that's all I do. And sometimes it can quiet it down, sometimes it doesn't. But you know what? At least I know that in this moment right now, I'm safe, I'm secure, my family's safe, they're secure, and that's all I need right now. Sarah, that's all I need right now. And those problems that I'm thinking about 3:45 a.m. at 5:30 when I wake up, they'll still be there.
Yeah.
So let's get the rest going so we can attack those problems later.
What would you say to our audience, the top 3 tips to do early in the morning when you wake up?
So I have a very strict regimen I've had for over 20 years. My morning starts with 2 large glasses of water, 30 minutes meditation, reading something inspirational, 10, 15 minutes, maybe some focusing on the goals, what I want to do for the day, writing down 2 or 3 things that I want to accomplish that day, or at least want to attack that day, committed to a different story. I carve out about an hour for myself before everyone wakes up. I had a mentor many, many years ago tell me, Raj, look, the first hour of the day is your rudder of the day. It's going to give your entire day direction.
Okay.
And so I've taken that, and I've even conveyed it over to my kids. For example, we wake them up earlier than they have to, so we can have them, just like very slow paced in the morning, because the day's going to get hectic anyway for them. But I would tell everyone, look, whether I don't watch TV. I mean, occasionally, shows on Netflix occasionally, but if you can focus on, if there's not everyone's the same again, but if there's a way for you to dial back your bedtime, go to sleep, try in your morning, if there's a way for you to even do this, incrementally, even just 15 minutes, 20 minutes, to where you're not waking up to a blaring alarm clock and rushing into your day, you will notice your entire resonance, your tenor of your day will change, because you will feel like you already, like I jokingly tell people, I have 8-day a week, because if you count my hours, Monday through Friday, I get an additional hour every morning. That's 5 hours. Saturday, my kids wake up later, so I get 2 additional hours. That's 7 hours. And on Sunday, my kids don't wake up till 10 a.m. So I get from 5:30 to 10 a.m. That's 4 hours. So if you add up those hours, it's 1 additional day.
Wow.
So I get the opportunity to have an 8-day week where I've already carved out X amount of time for myself. So once I've taken that time for myself, I can take that time for the world.
That is very, very important.
I think self-care needs to be, to a certain extent, we had a conversation recently about school systems. If we focused on and concentrated on mental well-being in elementary school and middle school and high school and made that mandatory, we wouldn't be adults trying to fix ourselves here today.
That is very true. I try to do mindfulness with some immersive music with my classes, and it really does make a difference. So any routine that you have, once you have it in place, it really helps.
But what if all the religious texts talked about for years and years? That's what they talked about, right?
I'm gonna do it.
Taking care of this first, taking care of this first, right? I had a gentleman, the Gujarati guy, we were talking about something recently. I told him, look, first you have dhyan, then you have gyan.
It's Anna, yeah.
If you don't have dhyan, you don't have attention, how are you going to learn or do anything?
Yeah.
Any kind of knowledge, right? You need to set your foundation. You need to set your baseline first. You need to go to focus your attention on these things in order to learn to absorb these things. You can't put the cart before the horse, as they right.
It's very, very important. All right. Now let's move on with the India-US, connections, outsourcing. Big topic, right?
Yes.
So switching gears, there are a lot of misconceptions about outsourcing. How do you see that?
So last year I gave a presentation to the International Center here. And I said there's 3 big T's with India: talent, technology, and trade. Talent, technology, and trade. I told them, I said, look, India graduates more engineers a year than, the entire America and like Europe combined.
Yeah.
Right? So there's immense amounts of talent there, okay? Technology, you mentioned AI in India, the amount of technological prowess in the Indian diaspora, in India and in the US, right? And then trade, obviously, topic.
Yeah.
But, many people in the US don't realize, I think last count was 1,800 or 2,000 global capability centers in India, which is, whether it's Samsung or JCPenney or Goldman Sachs or whatever, they have their research R&D centers in India. Outsourcing has been a phenomenal boon to India, and it's on since 2000 till today. Right. Now, we're seeing AI and technology kind of change the flavor of that, right? Is that labor arbitrage still there? If you can build in-house LLM talent here, you need to go overseas. I've seen some shift in nearshoring, friendshoring, South America, So I think that both our economies are going to have to navigate this new period, this changing period now, right? Of, do we need to hire 10 engineers or 20 engineers, 100 engineers in India, or like once we used to, because we used to throw bodies at problem before, right? We used to throw minds at problem before. But now perhaps we don't need. Now we need maybe 5 or 3 to run this particular situation, right? So I think there's going to be an absolute reckoning with talent, but not only in India, not only offshore, but we're seeing it here.
Yeah.
We're seeing college graduates here struggling to find work, right? Now, not everyone, but we're seeing these, company says, I don't need as many new employees. I can keep existing employees who already have the subject matter expert, they have the tribal knowledge. They can, perhaps do a little bit more. Now they're augmented. So I think, to your point, not only the offshoring, but I think this question around talent is really going to change globally. So I think it's a big question mark that everyone's looking to answer, and we're not going to have any answers for a long time.
Yeah. So we will see some shifts in the short term. So the best thing, as we talked about earlier, is to keep on investing yourself, learning. And beside from technical knowledge or the talent, Raj, what are some of the red flags that you would like to point out in early talent, right? Like someone who's graduated from college, and these may not be strictly for the expertise they have, but some of the things, if individual can fix those things early on, that will help their career journey, rewarding.
So I don't know if they're red flags so much. We talked about early building your own portfolio that you can show in public, right? That's something I always recommend, right? There's that. The other aspect is get out of your environment. They're going to talk to strangers again. There was a gentleman, I'll call him out by name. He's a phenomenal guy. Look him up on YouTube. Hirsch, Harsh, Gosar, Gosar. He was a young UTG student that I met 10 years ago. This guy was brilliant, right? I mean, he came here and he would come to all our technology networking events. He would find a way to get involved, get engaged. He was, to me, the role model, the epitome of what I would recommend students, specifically when I talk UTD, to do. Because what I would ask the UTG students is that, who in this room can get you a job amongst your friends? Like, nobody. You're all in the same boat.
Yeah.
Right? You're all doing the same thing, right? So, and I don't know how the situation is now. I'm going to guess it's probably similar. But many times they'd be taking, a 13-hour load or a 15-hour load or whatever it was. But my question is, what are you doing with the rest of the time? Are you sitting around watching movies with your friends? Are you sitting around socializing? Are you staying on campus? Now, I know that there are constraints regarding finances and time and different things, but there's a way. There's another young lady. Her name is Asta Bhatia. You find her on LinkedIn. She's a current UTD student. She is at almost every one of our events as a volunteer. She's almost at every one of our events as a volunteer. Lovely young lady. But again, she's getting out for her environment. She's engaging. She's, overcoming those fears. She's engaging with people, C-level executives sometimes. She's in the mix of it. She's trying to create her own luck, or she's increasing the surface area of her luck. And so I would say, not a red flag necessarily, but, I'm saying give up your friends. I'm saying just, carve out some time with some intention, right? To start creating your network. And as I told this engineer the other day, start building your bridges before you need them. Start you're trying to build your opportunities before you need them. And go with service mindset. Yeah. How can I help? What can I do? Yeah. Everyone has some kind of ability to help somewhere. You can volunteer somewhere. You can maybe teach somewhere. You could mentor somewhere. Some of these kids coming out of school are brilliant. So they come and say, look, I've learned X, Y, and Z right now regarding AI. I can teach, you guys about it. But what do you need? Yeah. So go with a service mindset.
That's a very, very good tip there. So now let's talk about celebrating wins. I know you have a demanding career, wearing multiple hats, connecting the dot, the community clear. How do you celebrate your wins? Small wins.
I'm terrible at it. I am terrible. I tell you what's made me better. My kids have made me better at it. So, Papa, this happened. We should celebrate. Papa, we did this. We should celebrate. And I think some of it has to do with, growing up in different cultures. Yeah. I'm like, okay, what's next, right? I'm like, okay, shabash for film. What's next, right? So I can't tell you I'm any expert celebrating my wins at all. I try to make a conscious effort of doing something now. I play along with my kids because they want to do something. But I don't really... The word win is really, to me, it's kind of nebulous because in my mind, win means there's some kind of competition or something happened. And I have tried to tamp down my mind regarding competitive. And all I'm saying is, okay, Raj, how can you be better today? How can this organization be better today than it was yesterday? And so there's no really end point with that, right? Yeah. There's no really like win or, So, if we get our 400 attendees at our TAP conference, people leave happy, that's a win. But I'm already thinking that, okay, that happened. So we had 480 people at our women's event in February. And at that event, end of the day, I spoke to one of our board members. I said, I think we can do 700 this year. I forget we did 480, right? I think we can do 700 next year. Yeah. So, but to me, like, that's the win. That's the attraction. That's that pull I told you about earlier. Like, okay, let's push a little bit. Let's just see what we can do with this. Let's just think bigger and say, what can we do? And it's not think bigger out of wanting material or wanting gain, or it's just like, I feel like there's more we can do. Yeah. And so because I have that more we can do scenario, it's like, okay, great. We're at the next step. We're on the next run to more we can do.
Okay. Sort of like you're looking at it, maybe better than yesterday, just for yourself. Like,
right.
It's improving. Your competition is just with yourself.
Journey. So terrible at celebrating wins. I don't know if it's a good thing or bad thing. It's just a thing.
I'm the same way.
Yes. Yeah. Keep it. Okay. I see the goal. What's the goal? I see the goal. What's the goal? I see the goal. And again, even think about goals, right? These goals are all made up in our head. Yeah. It could be a financial goal, it could be health goal. We just made this story up in our head that, hey, you know what, I want to be X, Y, Z, right? That's what it is, right? And then we put that out there and we say, okay, this is what I'm going to focus on and go towards.
Very nice. So we're moving towards the end. Raj, really appreciate you joining in the Word Talk series with me today. And what is the final message you have for our audience?
It's going to sound cliche, I'm telling you. But the earlier you learn this, I think, again, looking back on my journey, people that I know, it's love.
Yeah.
It's really, however you define, like, love for humanity, love for planet, love for your spiritual love for your family. Looking back as a young kid growing up in London, if you told me this, if I told me this, 30 years ago, I'd be like, that's nonsense. Just, I can tell you now that from a very sincere standpoint, when eyes open in the morning, and if you can share words of love to yourself and about people around you, the family, obviously, but people you work with, when you leave the threshold of your home and go out into the world, there's an adage, what you focus on, you will see. So if you focus on love or an emotion that you think would be similar to that, and you see people, you will understand that you're on a similar journey as them. That will be the feeling that you will have throughout your entire day and then weeks and years. So I would just say, like, there are no enemies. You get told about a story up there. These stories perpetuate. But if you can focus on love, you will see your entire life and your demeanor change together.
Very nice. Love and humanity. So there you have it from the man himself, President of the U.S. India Chamber of Commerce, Mr. Raj Daniels. It's a pleasure of hosting you today.
Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate your time very much.